Mark, you're back from the Bahamas. Your nose is healing up nicely. You're going to tell us all about it on this show.
Yeah, watch out for those pools, man. They jump up and bite you.
So you are back from Baha Mar. Thanks last week for Joe subbing in for you. Got to talk about my last minute spring break, but you had a much more exciting spring break, I think, than going to Dallas. So can't wait to hear all about it. And specifically, your wife, Kirsten, had gone to Baha Mar before. So I can't wait to hear maybe what her thoughts were with all the changes probably over the last few years.
Yeah, she went, I think, like a year or so after it opened, so it was fairly new. I mean, the most noticeable difference, she said, is it was much busier, and that's, because she didn't go during spring break last time, and spring break's probably the worst time to go there, which is when we were there. I mean, it was very busy, but it wasn't, it's such a big property, it didn't ever feel like too crowded, so that was a nice thing, except for like at dinner time, it was tough if you're trying to eat on property to get a spot. So that's something you got to worry about if you are going that time of year.
So let's back up a little bit. You have talked a little bit about the trip before, kind of previewing it. You're going with a family that was like friends, kids, the parents are friends of yours. So not just traveling by yourself. But yeah, back up a little bit about getting down there, the flights. Yeah, everything else that's worth mentioning.
Yeah, we booked. I used Alaska Miles. I ended up finding the space, several months ago, and got lucky on the way down. I think it was 15K per person plus the small taxes and fees, and that was like a mixed cabin award where we were in economy, but I got upgraded to main comfort or comfort plus or whatever the hell AA calls it, since they all have to have different names because of my Platinum Pro from the Hyatt status match. So we got that on the way down. Flew Friday night, landed in Charlotte, and then we had an overnight there. So I booked the Hyatt place right by the airport, which ended up being fairly nice. It was like the old style Hyatt place rooms, like the brownsy one setup where the bathroom is in the back corner and tiny, but everything looked like it had been updated in the room, like carpet wise and furniture and everything. So it was fairly nice. 5K a night. Got 2 rooms, so we didn't have to hear anybody complain about sharing beds until we got to the Bahamas. And there was a restaurant in the parking lot called Jocks and Jill's, which I thought was kind of cool.
Yeah, I saw a picture of that. It looked neat. Not to sidetrack this a little bit to get nerdy about Hyatt places, but being in Dallas last week, there's a ton of Hyatt places there. And I'm specifically like looking at the pictures to see if I can get, if it's a newer Hyatt place or an old one, an old converted one. I almost feel like it should be two brands at this point because I avoid those old ones like the plague. I don't like the room setup. Even the refreshed ones, I don't like the lobby. They're cramped. And, last week we stayed at the Hyatt Place DFW, which is a newer one, suite upgrade. So they gave us a suite and it's just a different product. It just feels like it's a level above, but hard to argue with category one. And like you said, 2 rooms and you're still significantly cheaper than one night at Baha Mar.
Yeah, that's why we were okay with this overnight. I'd rather get there. We ended up landing at like 9 a.m. So we got to the hotel at like 10 a.m. ish, which was cool. And then, if we would have gotten there Friday night late, you spend 29K or whatever it was, 25K, somewhere in that range, depending on, I think some nights were flexed and some were standard. So, we saved a ton of points and got there just like we would have woken up in the morning. So that was kind of cool. Got up. The downside was the bus. We're like, all right, we want to get on the 5:30 bus, and she's like, oh, the shuttle's completely packed. So we had to go at 5, which was not really necessary for our 7 a.m. flight, but didn't want to do 6 in case we're too close. But on the way down, we had business class, so we're able to go into the lounge, and which sucked. I mean, the Admirals Club there was pretty bad. There was no seating. It was so busy. We just sat at like the weird sofas they have right at the entrance. And the kids grabbed some food and stuff, but first class flight down, which was more important to me or business, whatever you want to call it. More important to me because I wanted to be like the first off the plane to get through customs. That's, I think, the best part about flying in the front of the plane on the way to international flights. And we get there, we're racing to get in the line. And the guy's like, wait, did you fill out this form yet? And we're like, no, man, nobody gave us a form on the plane. And he's like, oh, you got to fill this out. Yeah, they're like, you got to fill this out. So everybody's coming off this plane rushing, and then they have to fill out forms for each individual person. It was so dumb. And our friends flew out a couple days before us. on Delta, same thing. They didn't give them the. I don't know why they're not giving out the forms. It feels like everywhere else I've flown, they give those out ahead of time.
Then it's like the Hunger Games. Everybody's trying to see who can
Yeah,
fill it out faster, and they're paranoid at doing it, and you end up scribbling it. My wife
yeah,
has like neat handwriting, and she's going all slow. I'm like, give it to me, you know.
yeah. Charlotte messed up hers, and I was like, luckily Kirsten had enough pens. That was the problem. Like a lot of people were waiting to use a pen from another family member. She had enough pens, but one was in purple, and I don't even know if they would have taken it in purple. But she messed up something. I was like, just give it to me. I'm gonna do yours, and did it real quick. And I was like psycho, but we ended up getting up there in like the first 15 or 20 people. So it was fairly quick to get through. I know my friend said they got in there like afternoon, evening flight, and it was like an hour to get through. So there's kind of like hit and miss depending on what time you land for Nassau.
Yeah, that's still a thing, you know, with international travel is you never know what kind of line you're going to get when you're there. And it's stressful. And with kids, it can be very stressful too, because you're like, just behave. We're in this one customs area, you know, don't stand out. And of course they never do. They're loud. They're doing whatever. And I'm always, you know, sitting there staring. It is weird how we get off the plane and we're just like so frustrated that you have to do this. It really isn't a big deal in the scheme of things. And truthfully, I feel like over the last 15, 20 years, technology has made it so much better because it
Yeah.
used to be the norm was an hour or 2 hours wherever you went.
Yeah, and you see this in Asia who uses the technology so much better, and it's like you don't even talk to anybody. You just scan your stuff and you scan your passport, and they let you through. There's somebody standing there in case you have an issue, but like that's where we all should be. Hopefully, we get there. But yeah, it wasn't too bad. And I know this is jumping forward, but I love that Bahamas is one of the places that has U.S. Customs at the airport, so you clear it before you get on the plane. So when you land, it's like a domestic flight. Dublin's another big one that does that, and it just makes it so much easier. So I almost like want to fly through Ireland on the way home to make that easier. Because I mean, I talked about coming back from Rio and landing in JFK and that mess that was there, which was just like insanity, and how much better it is when you clear it at the country before you leave. It's usually less lines, not too busy. You have a little bit more time. You don't have like that connecting flight to worry about or anything like that. So I love that setup there.
I think global entry has, and I have a good global entry story here. I have to sidetrack us for a second, but I feel like it's changed that for me. I worry a lot less. I just know I've had so many experiences where I'm just going through now. Recently, I haven't had any where there's lines with global entry in the last few years. So I feel like that makes it easier. But I do love the pre-check. The only thing about those airports is then you're then stuck, you know,
Yeah.
past, you know, the border basically in those airports. So that kind of does it. But anyway, last week when I was going to Texas, checked in for my flight, and I didn't have pre-check on my thing, and it was a morning flight. It wasn't going to be busy. I had clear. I just didn't bother to kind of go to the AA desk, figure it out. I did make sure that my number was on there right, whatever. So I just used clear, went through the old-fashioned security. Family went through pre-check, everything else. And then coming back, I check in again, no pre-check again, and I'm like, what the heck is going on? And again, they had clear, so I wasn't too worried about it, but yeah, so I was like, maybe my global entry expired. I go in and I log in, and my birthday was, you know, a week and a half ago. It expired on my birthday.
Uh,
And so a good reminder to people to check up on that. I got to get it renewed. So I'm pre-checklist. I'm just waiting on the application now to get, hopefully I don't have to do an interview and all that.
yeah, that's why I always fly with like a platinum card. You know, one for lounges, but two, just in case I go to clear and wasn't paying attention. They're like, oh, you need to repay or re-up or whatever. But that was a downside. I searched and Charlotte didn't have clear. At least that's what it said online. So I was like, wow, we can't really risk it going, you know, close to, you know, sometimes pre-check lines are longer and that stuff. So I'm like, all right, we're just going to get there early. The cool thing in the Bahamas is they do have the global entry, so you can go through there. They also have the mobile passport control. I saw a sign for it. They didn't say anything about it, so I thought that was weird. Had I known it was there, could have filled that out for the family and helped out a little bit there, but the line wasn't too long anyway. So those are two options you have when you go through there. So we got there. I love that you walk through security, and then there's like this little convenience store that sells you beer and liquor and everything. So prices are pretty much the same as if you know you go to a liquor store. For whatever reason, in the Bahamas, a lot of liquor stores sell beer individually, and it's like $3, 3.50. So you could grab some there and put them in your suitcase or whatever, or carry them in a bag to your hotel, or they'll open it up right there and you can have a drink before you get in the cab.
Yeah, that's a thing. Not just the Bahamas, but I think in the Caribbean, right? You land at an airport and get a beer, and you get to enjoy it. They have a lot of those bars around, and everybody just wants to kind of settle in to the spirit of being there, and that's always cool that they have that sort of vibe. I feel like that's pretty universal in the airports in the Caribbean that I've been to.
Yeah, and it's fun, and drink a Kalik. I actually like Sands better, but I love Kalik and Sands, the beers down there in the Bahamas. So definitely drink those if you're in there and you enjoy beer. But hopped in the cab, went over to got to the hotel probably around 10:30 ish, 10:30. Tried to check in and noticed that Vineyard Vines was right next to the lobby check in. So they had some cool Bahamas themed swag there if you're into Vineyard Vines, which Sean doesn't even know what it is.
I don't know what it is. And could you remind us of the ridiculous price we paid for
Yeah.
that t-shirt?
Yeah, the t-shirt, it was like $65. So they have a Vineyard Vines in the water park too, a store in the water park, which I find crazy. But I'm a fan of Vineyard Vines. It's kind of like the newer Polo, I guess, like us growing up, what Ralph Lauren was. That's more the Vineyard Vines now. I don't know, like beachy, but also nice stuff. And it like, don't buy anything that's not. I bought this just because it said Baha Mar on it. I thought it was cool. They had some that had like the whale that has the flag of the Bahamas colors and things like that. So they had unique stuff that I would buy there for that. But any of the regular stuff was 30-40% more than what you'd pay here at home. So I wouldn't mess with it otherwise, unless you needed like a dress shirt for dinner or something that you forgot to pack. But I thought that was kind of cool. Checked in, room wasn't ready, which I kind of expected. They did have a arrivals lobby type thing, room that you could go to and change with bathrooms, a couple couches, lockers that most of them didn't work to lock, so that wasn't super helpful. But we checked our bags with valet and took care of that, changed in bathing suits, and hit the beach right away.
Yeah, I think for Baha Mar, what people might be surprised is it feels very much like a Vegas huge giant mega resort when you get there. From the check-in experiences, the lobby, obviously it has a huge casino.
No lines though. No lines.
Yeah,
Sean. No Vegas lines.
There you go. So it's better than Vegas in that way. And there's multiple hotels under the one roof, kind of similar to some of the mega resorts that we have now. And the Grand Hyatt where you stayed is sort of the lowest end, which is not to say anything. It's a great hotel. I stayed there too. It's where I would stay, but it kind of only goes up from there.
Yeah, SLS is the next step up, and that's right next door. It's like a pink building. And then Rosewood is, so Grand Hyatt's in the center. If you're facing the ocean, to the left is SLS, to the right is Rosewood. Rosewood's the super bougie stuff, and everybody has a different colored wristband. So Grand Hyatt's gray, and I think Rosewood was like pinkish, and or SLS was pinkish. Rosewood was like an orangey type thing, if I remember correctly. But you have that. They have people kind of standing. We walked through Rosewood just to see what it looked like. They had people standing there, but they didn't say anything, so it was kind of like whatever. But yeah, they can access like everything Grand Hyatt has to offer, and I don't know that you can technically go to their pools, but it seems like they could go to our pools or whatever. But everybody kind of stayed to their little areas. And then you have the big water park that everybody can go to. And even if you're staying off resort if you're renting a condo or staying at another hotel, you can pay to go in. I think it's like $100 or more per person. So that's kind of a nice, really insane perk for using Hyatt points to stay there. Is you get in, 4 people get into this, you're saving $500 on this water park.
And what's interesting with the whole water park thing, Atlantis has this huge themed water park. I don't know what condition they're in recently because they had let it go, but hopefully better times now at Atlantis, but heavily themed and stuff. It seems like the water park at Baha Mar is more of a traditional water park, just slides, less of the rock and the theming and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it just feels like a water park that you'd go anywhere, but it's a top-notch water park, I'd say. It has a wave pool, decent size. It has like 6 or 7 pretty good slides, even the ones that are like the straight drop down where you go fast and you think you're gonna skip out and break your knees on the end, but you end up stopping. Like the tube slide that you stand in and a heartbeat goes off and then the floor drops out. You have that one. You have some that you come off the slide and you fall like 5 feet into the water. So it has all that. It has the wave rider thing where you can like do like little surfing and stuff. And then it has a really long lazy river that probably takes 10 minutes to get around, which is pretty cool. And a wave actually comes in to move the lazy river along. So it gets moving a little bit at times. And then this really big kiddie area with like 5 slides, the big bucket water drop, another kiddie area with little slides. So if you have kids that are the 5 to 10 range, this is like the best Hyatt resort I think that you can take them to in maybe the whole portfolio.
And they have really good pools there too, which I think
Yeah.
are overlooked now. I mean, before when it first opened, that was the focus of it, and so a lot of people saw their pools. Now at the water park, they focus on that. They had the cliff diving, which I remember being very unique. Did you get to do any of that? Jump off the cliff?
Yeah, that's how I jack out my nose.
Okay, I should have guessed. I should have guessed. Sounds like something I would do.
Yeah, so that pool it's supposed to have 3 waterfalls going. The water wasn't working. I never asked why, but there was no waterfalls. But if you go behind the waterfalls, there's like a fish tank with sharks and stuff, so you can swim under there and stare at those, which is cool. And then they have like a 6 foot jump, cliff dive. I don't think you're supposed to dive, but cliff jump, and then like 11 foot one. So the kids were going off it, and then I was like, oh, can you guys touch the bottom? Because I think it's like 12, 15 feet deep if you do a pin drop. So everybody tried it, and then I tried it. So I go down, don't quite touch the bottom, but push the water up. So I touch the bottom, and one of the kids is watching me with like goggles on. I don't have goggles, but I try to swim out towards where you're supposed to leave. And you know how like normal pools, when you go from deep to shallow, it's like a gradual uplift, right? Normally there's like a slope a little bit. So I was kind of expecting that, but I'm swimming and it's just like a cliff. Like it goes from like 4 feet to straight down. So I'm swimming underwater, no goggles, no eyes open, and I do one more like push and like just timed it perfectly where I'm leading with my face and I clipped like the bottom part of the cliff right with my nose, and I come up and like blood's just gushing out of the top of my top of my nose. This is like within the first hour and a half of being there.
So did they have to evacuate the pool because of your blood everywhere? Or no?
No, it wasn't bad. It was just like dribbling down or whatever. So I walk out, I go to the bar, grab some napkins, hold that there for like 30 minutes. And then I asked the lifeguard down at the beach if he had a Band-Aid and put that on. And then just walking around like I got in a fight with a scab. But luckily, like no black and blue eyes or anything like that. I just look like, something nefarious happened most of the week.
Well, let's talk maybe about the hotel a little bit because I've been in some of the rooms there. I stayed in one of their like yacht villa things. I don't know if you saw that little building as you're going out to the pool. There's a little like 3 or 4 story building with its own private pool off to the side, and that was all themed to yachts. But I've also been inside some of the suites there. There were some friends staying there when I was there last time. So did you get a suite upgrade, or what type of room did you have at Baha Mar?
Yeah, so we used a guest of honor from a buddy in Detroit that had a whole bunch, and we got basically ocean view because it was so busy there that week. I didn't expect a suite. We didn't get a suite. It wasn't even like an option really. So we got the standard 2 bedrooms, very nice. One of the nicer rooms that you can get. We should say like it was category 6, so it was like 25 points standard. Now it's a category 7 with the recent changes. So, 30,000 standard can flex up or down depending on the year from there. I'm guessing it's mostly up. So it's going to be a little more costly, but we were on the 17th floor. Had a beautiful view of the ocean, could sit out on the patio and everything. So it was really nice. I mean, the only weird thing is the bathtub door thing slides. So you can like the bathtub can be accessible to the entire room, which I get, like they want you to be able to see the ocean from the bathtub, but in a 2 bedroom, I don't know when that's ever going to be used. So it's a little bit weird, but you just close that and it looks like a normal wall, then it's fine. But the bathroom's really nice. Beds were pretty comfortable. Really, high end finishes. And for being several years old, it doesn't feel worn at all, which is nice. And then you have those views. Our friends got put on the 7th floor, which had no view. But the cool thing was they didn't have to take the elevator. They could just walk right out to the pools by taking some stairs. So that's the give or take. If you want the view, then better ask for it. But if not, 7th floor might be a good fit for you because in the morning, those elevators do get backed up and it's kind of a pain in the butt.
Yeah, I think I have some video I can throw up from a few years ago of the different rooms too, the suites and stuff. If I remember right, there's a blue color scheme on one of the towers and a red color scheme in the other tower. Just very, no matter which way you go, where you're at, I remember the rooms being very islandy, but also modern and fresh, and really, liking the aesthetic of all of them. I was staying in one of those weird yacht rooms that was themed like you were on a yacht, which was kind of cool. But I remember the main tower rooms being very nice and really liking it. So, I mean, it's no secret that Bahamas is not one of my favorite places in the world because of the cost, and I don't find the service there is all that great. You know, for me, if I'm going to go to a big place like that, Hawaii is the place. Obviously, there's no casinos in Hawaii, and we disagree about that. But, you know, like just from the casino perspective, this is a very over the top sort of place. You think about all of the places you could go for that type of vacation. Do you really think Bahamas right here, you know, Baha Mar, that's the type of place that people should go for a casino mega resort luxury experience?
Yeah, I think it's right up towards the top of there. Like if you put Baha Mar in Vegas, I think just with the pools, the hotel and the pools and the casino, I think it'd be top two or three in Vegas. When you throw in a water park in an ocean with like one of the most beautiful water views you're going to see, the color of water there is insane, and the ocean's fairly nice on Cable Beach. You're going to put it at probably number one outside of maybe Wynn if you are really big about service. But we noticed the service was pretty good at Baha Mar. We didn't have any trouble. Everybody was pretty nice except for the checkout lady. She was kind of bad, but we'll get to that in a bit. So that
Wait,
I
wait,
would
you
put.
had a problem with somebody in the Bahamas at the front desk? Do I finally, you know, after all the crap you've talked with me about my
Okay.
Atlantis experience?
I mean, we dealt with probably like 30 different people in the Bahamas, and every single one of them was great except for her. And I think it was just, I don't know, she just seemed like she was over it at that point. But we'll get to that later. But yeah, I think it's if you're into casinos and you have a family, I think that's a good give and take here. Where you don't maybe Vegas isn't a good fit or something like along those lines. Of course, there's international places that you can go that have really high end hotels and a casino. But I think this is a unique kind of combination that it's like a really family friendly resort, but it also has a bit of nightlife. We ended up, me and my buddy ended up on the rooftop bar at the SLS one night, which was really, really cool. You can actually see it when you're at the pools. There's like trees up there and stuff. It's an outdoor rooftop bar, but it feels like it's enclosed. So they have like a little bit of everything for you. I mean, maybe not the easiest to go gamble if you do have kids, probably not the best. But maybe like you like to gamble, but your spouse doesn't. So you go down at night, have a couple drinks, whatever it be. But yeah, and they have all the restaurants around it. There's probably 20 some restaurants there. It's insane. They're all very expensive, of course. Except, you can save a little bit by doing the food trucks out by the ocean. Those close at 5, so you could make that your dinner. There are options. I have a couple tips for dining if you're interested.
Yeah, I mean, I am. When I went there, it was back in the glory days of having a grand club, which isn't the case
Yeah,
anymore.
that's a big loss. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there is a trade off because you didn't get like a full breakfast. It was a club breakfast back then, and I think now you get a full breakfast. But they had hors d'oeuvres at night, they had drinks at night, and so it was. I guess if you were being the cheap travel hacker and really trying to maximize your free food and not having to pay for anything, I think that was probably more ideal before. But yeah, how are the benefits stacking up now that there is no club, and with what are globalists getting when they stay there?
Yeah, this is like the one negative I would say about Baha Mar is they like cap how much you can spend. So it's like capped at $145, I think, including taxes and everything, which there's a 10% automatic tax on everything, the VAT tax. And then I think they add the gratuity too. So, once you go above that, you're supposed to have to cover it. That only covers two adults and two children at the buffet. And that's a negative because children are stopped being children at 12. So my son is 13. The first day they let it slide, I marked it down as two kids. And it's a really good buffet. There's like everything you want. They have Asian food, they have Mexican food, they have breakfast food, they have ice cream sandwiches, like an omelet station, all the stuff. So it's really good, but I'm not paying like $50 a person for adults for that. So the next night or the next morning we went down there and they wouldn't let it slide. So they were going to charge us. And I'm like, you know what? You three go. It'll be two adults and one kid.
Connor, go wait over there while we go
No,
eat. Sorry,
no,
buddy.
no. He needs to eat. He's 13. He's going to eat too much. I don't eat a ton. So I'm like, you go eat. I went up to start. And this is funny. The best deal to eat there is Starbucks because it's still priced like it is at home. It's not jacked up prices, which Bahamas, like you said, very expensive. They use the US dollar pretty much everywhere, and it's all based on the dollar. So you don't get a break for that. So that's kind of tough. But yeah, the Starbucks, I went up there, got a large coffee, whatever it's called, venti or 20 ounce. Got a shaken espresso and a sandwich, and it was like $15. So, I saved myself $35 by not going down there. Had enough to eat, was fine. Waited up in the room for them to get done. Now you can there's a cafe that you can go to, but it was like all booked up for the week. I think you maybe want to do reservations ahead of time. And then there's Nosh. Is that how you would say it in Jewish? Like
In
Knosch?
Jewish, yes. But
Well,
nosh would be the word to eat. Yeah, in
yeah, okay.
Yiddish.
Yeah, so it's one of the food trucks out there. You can have breakfast there. That's better if you have kids that are over 12, because it's just now you're based on the how much it costs, when you go to settle the bill. And they had salmon lox, a bagel with lox, so that was really good. The other stuff wasn't the greatest. I don't think I could eat there for like 3-4 days in a row, where I could eat at the buffet every day. So that's the give and take. If you have kids, you might be stuck eating there. If you have kids that are older, you might be stuck eating there if you want to use your free breakfast. But maybe you just send the kids and the spouse down to the buffet. You go to Starbucks and eat there. That's also a good option for lunch. Starbucks. It's sad, but it's like the cheapest thing on property, even though it's like one of the more expensive places here.
Yeah, I mean the food does add up there, just in the Bahamas in general. And this isn't really just Baha Mar; it's anywhere you go.
Yeah.
Atlantis, even off of property. I mean, it might be a little cheaper to go to local places, but everything is expensive. They usually put a service charge on everything too, so tips are being added to every single thing, which isn't, I don't know, a good or bad thing, but it is something to be there. My main question: how did they know that he wasn't 20? Now, obviously, your son looks like he's 18 or something.
Yeah.
So, but I think a lot of people could probably fudge the numbers on that.
Yeah, I think it depends on your kid. I mean, my daughter doesn't even really look 11. She is 11, but my son definitely doesn't look 11, so he wasn't making it in there. The other couple, their son looks a little bit younger, so I think they made it through. Or the dad didn't go down one morning, so who knows? But they didn't have to pay anything at checkout, so I think it ended up working out. But yeah, they ask you, and it's kind of tough to say he's 11. I guess you could with a wink, and that's how we got by the first day. But it's tough if they're 15 or 16, then you're definitely going to have to go to the food truck or to the other place, and just try to keep it under that $145 mark.
Yeah, and that's one of the ways that Hyatt, and it's been many years now since they changed it. It used to be great because you used to get breakfast for 4 in a room. It didn't matter if they were kids or adults. Now the terms say it's 2 adults, 2 kids, and the age for a kid is at the hotel's discretion. So, fully legal within the program there. But, the casino, we just touched on it briefly. This isn't a casino show, but it is very similar to Wynn Las Vegas in its design, the way it looks. So it's also very high end too for people that are looking for that, experience. And I think that when you point out the fact that you have the beach there, which is a very nice beach, the water park, really nice pools, a very nice casino, nice hotel rooms. I don't love the service culture in the Bahamas. I don't love the cost. But you are right that there is a lot of, it gives you a lot for what it's offering. And it's definitely unique in that way.
Yeah, if you want to go for like a couples trip, I would maybe get like, splurge and get a cabana. Like that one picture that everybody takes of the thin pool leading, that like view leads to the ocean. That's private cabanas for 18 and above. And that's like a cool pool that has like a shelf in there or a bar that you just stand at, and you can bring your drinks in. You have service and all of that stuff. So if you can spring for that. There's also a pool attached to the water park that's only you have to buy a chair. I think the chairs are like $50, or you have to buy a cabana to get in there. So that's another way to get kind of like away from the craziness of it. There's the one downside is there's only one pool that has a swim up bar, if that's your thing, which is kind of a negative. We stayed at the Radisson, which was the Melia, and that got torn down right next to the property just a couple years ago. But that had more swim. I feel like it had more swim up bars. Maybe it just had one, but it was one big pool. So you're missing a bit there. But there are like several pools to go to, and you find one that's more your vibe and everything. We basically spent one day at each pool, and then one day at the beach, and then there's bars out by the beach and everything. So you have a lot of options there. I will say, if you're looking for more of like a not family resort, right around the corner is an SLH. that you can book with Hilton points. I think it's like 90K a night. It's Godwin, and they stayed. Our friends stayed there the first 2 nights. They said it was a really high end, really nice resort. The cool thing there was their room had like a little kitchenette with burners. It had pots and pans and everything. So and like a fridge. So it was a studio. It was all one big room, but off to the side they had that. So you could cook some of your meals, maybe cook lunch, cook breakfast. It's around the corner, around the bend of the beach, so it gets a little bit more seaweed and stuff. Just the way the water flows. That's the one negative. But it has like the infinity pool that looks right out into the ocean. You had kayaks and everything. So that's another option if you don't have Hyatt points.
So yeah, I mean, let's talk about your checkout experience. For
Well,
years you've railed against
first,
me.
I gotta talk about food. I said we saved a little bit of money. We didn't really eat any dinner on property. The one dinner we did eat on property, me and Kirsten got food from the food trucks at like 5 o'clock, ate that, and then we got kids pizza from Pizza Lab, which ended up being like $45 with all the taxes and everything. It was $30, and then they slap on $15 in fees and all that stuff. So our friends actually ordered. Do you have Marco's Pizza in Vegas? I don't know. It's a chain around here. I don't
Yeah,
know
we
if you
do.
have it. Yeah, so there's a Marco's that you can get delivered. They got 2 medium pizzas, wings, and something else, and it was like $35. So if you want to order pizza, don't get it from property. Order it from there. You can get it delivered and save some money. And then we actually walk. If you walk through the water park, this is the quickest way to get off property because if you walk out towards the street, it's like Vegas, but like 3 casinos that you have to walk by. It takes forever because each property has an entrance, and it really messed up the whole frontage of Cable Beach. It used to be very easy to get out there, to get on the jitney, the buses. Now it's like this whole thing that you have to walk really far because they want to make it look pretty. Kind of messed up that whole area. It's harder to get on the buses to downtown because the bus stops aren't as frequent or as close together. Um, but if you walk through the water park when it's open, you go out the entrance that people that are paying would come in. You're right at the daiquiri shack. They have drinks, fresh made daiquiris there. It's like $5 cheaper than it is on property. Cool little vibe. They had Spartan flag hanging on the ceiling, which I thought was cool. And then there's a little straw market there that has pretty much everything that you can find downtown. So if you want the straw market experience without all the craziness, you can go there. They have food at Daiquiri Shack. When the lady shows up, they say she's supposed to be here tomorrow, but don't bet your life on it. So you never know.
I mean, that's the perfect place. I mean, that's the experience right there.
Yeah. Yeah. You just never know. If you walk just past that, there's a liquor store that sells all the booze and beer and all the stuff. Like I said, they sell individual bottles, but you can save some money there. It's like $3.50 a beer. So you can take that back to your room. We bought cans, took them down to the pool in our bag. Didn't have any problems with that. So that's an option. And then a little bit further of a walk is a place called Walk and Roll, which is a takeout Chinese place. It's in a bit of a sketchy strip mall, but I think you'll be fine. Take the grab and go order. I wouldn't eat there. It's not the greatest setup inside. Now, if you walk like 20 minutes from the resort, 25 minutes, there's a place called Social House, Nassau Social House. Some of the most amazing food I've had anywhere. Not cheap, but probably like 20% cheaper than you'll get on property, but like same quality, if not better food. Everything we ate was great. It was like $350 when it was all said and done. We did order like a ton of appetizers and stuff. I think you could get out of there for like 250, 200 if you're not drinking with a family of 4, but really good. There's another one around the corner called Meze, I believe, which is owned by the same company that runs some of the places inside, some of the restaurants inside Baha Mar. So high end, also in a strip mall. It doesn't look like it'll be nice on the outside. You walk in, very nice steakhouse, pretty good steak, all that stuff. A little bit less than the Social House, but almost as good. Not quite. So those are some options off property.
And then you went to Goldie's Fish Fry, the place you've been
Yes.
talking about ever since your honeymoon many, many moons ago.
Yeah, definitely. I encourage everybody to go to the Fish Fry. There's like 40 restaurants right on the water. And then if you go just past the Fish Fry, there's all the little bar shacks that you can go sit at. We did that as well. And then the kids looked and picked up beach glass along the beach. You can watch the boats coming in, freighters or the cruise ships, and have a beer sitting there. It's amazing. My favorite spot. But then you go to the Fish Fry. Goldie's is the one we've been going to for 20 years. Ended up running into Goldie again. Had some shots with him. And I was like, yeah, man, I met your brother like 20 years ago. Or this is how it started. The waitress, I was like, yeah, we come here, been coming here for 20 years. And we met the brother the first time he served us. He gave us this drink called Call Cab. If you have two of them, he says you need to call a cab. And she's like, "What do you look like?" So I describe him. She's like, "That's Goldie. That's not his." I don't think Goldie even has brothers. I think he just didn't want to be known as the owner.
He's like, well, who's
So
this
that's
weird guy?
so
He
that's
just
why she
didn't
was
want you
like,
to know he was the owner.
no, I'm guessing like he doesn't want people. I don't know. But she's like asking all these questions. She looks at me. She's like, "That's Goldie," and because I was wondering when she was like, "His brother. What's he look like?" I don't think he has a brother. So that was fine. She's like, "Let me go get him." So she goes and gets him. He comes upstairs. He's like, "I'm like, man, we've been coming here for 20 years." He's like, "20 years, man. That's back when we had nothing because it was a dive back then." You can definitely tell they remodeled it. It looks a lot nicer inside. They have an upstairs, a downstairs, outside seating. Food was really good, more affordable for sure. And he bought us a couple shots, and we had a good old time.
Yeah, the food looked great, and I think food is, going into it can be, especially if you're sort of coming from the travel hacker mindset, so you maybe get your hotel for free, your flights for free. It still can be more expensive than we're used to, and food really adds up. And like you said, with your pizza that was $30 that turned into $45, that seems like every single thing you do in the
Yeah.
Bahamas does that with the service fees and the VAT and all the other stuff. And so it is something to be keep in mind. And I always talk about the airport taxes as well, because that does add up to like $500 for four people just to fly back from the Bahamas. And so even if you're doing it, this is what it always sort of blows my mind as a vacation destination for people, because it is so expensive, even when you're going for quote unquote free. But it is, you've resold me. Maybe I'll go back at some point. I do want to go. I am jelly. Had I gone to Baha Mar when the water park was there, maybe I wouldn't feel the need, but I do
Ellie
want
would
to see the
love
water
it.
park.
Yeah, she would love it. You'd love it. Lots of good stuff there. It's pretty crazy, especially if you would have gone a couple, like if it would have been there a couple years ago when she was smaller with the kiddie areas. It would have been great. But yeah, I mean, we that's where we went on our honeymoon. It was our first international trip together, so we'll always have a soft spot in our heart. But everybody had a great time. The kids both said they liked it better than Hawaii, mainly because I think of the water park for Charlotte at least. But it's just like a whole different vibe, and for us, it's way easier. We can be down, from leaving Detroit to getting there can be like 4 or 5 hours if you get a good connection. If you're living in like Atlanta or Florida, of course, is way easier, even easier. But lots of direct flights from the East Coast too, nonstop. So I think it's in that respect, it's better for us than Hawaii. But if you lived on the West Coast, it's going to take forever to get there, like you said on a previous show. So there's give and take. Just know that you're going to spend some money on property or on food, and you really have to go like inland if you want to get like a really good deal. I think Poop Deck is one of the more famous places that is maybe a bit of more affordable. I think the one by the bridge to Paradise Island is the better of the two. So that's an option. When we went downtown, we went into a liquor store. They had Kalik Radlers for $1. So there is still some value there, depending on where you go. Downtown was crazy because they had 5 cruise ships in at the same time. So it was a bit much walking around. But when we were leaving there, we hopped on a jitney, which is $1.50 a person, can take you pretty much all around the island. You just ask them where they're going. 10A or 10B is what you want for Cable Beach back and forth. But we hopped on that downtown. Said we wanted to go to Fort Charlotte. Dropped us right in front of that. We walked up the hill. Checked out that, which was really cool. And then we walked back down the hill, and it's right across from the fish fry. So we did all that. We went downtown, Fort Charlotte, and fish fry all within like 5 hours, which was really cool.
Yeah, so I mean, let's the anticipated checkout experience.
I mean,
so
it wasn't that big of a deal.
Wait,
You're
some
building it up.
background though is I have been to the Bahamas many times, and I've encountered some just questionable service there. You pointed this out earlier, and I do want to point this out. You encounter tons of employees no matter where you go, and even when in Baha Mar when I was there, I had one weird experience with the server in the club lounge. But I probably dealt with 40 or 50 other employees, like you say, and they were all great. The same thing at Atlantis, had, the infamous story of the worst hotel front desk agent ever. But even then, I had many good experiences with people. I just find that in the Bahamas, the service culture, like when it goes sideways, they're not as friendly customer wise as as they are elsewhere. But I think it's good to point out too that I have had lots of positive experiences before, I've just, it's not, to me, when you talk about customer service, I don't lump the Bahamas in with that, like the
Yeah.
atmosphere of that.
Yeah, and I'll say if you go to Goldie's, which I would recommend, uh, ask for Anita Baker. That's what she said to ask for the waitress. She was amazing, super funny, and just like most of the Bahamas, the people are like very full of life, very like energetic, very happy. So she was like the best of all of that, which was cool. But yeah, so we go to check out. And they print off the bill, and I'm looking at the bill, and I'm like, this doesn't seem right. I mean, the tough thing is you don't remember what you signed for 4 days ago, and tracking is kind of hard. But I'm looking at it, I'm like, wait, that the Nosh breakfast that shouldn't be on there. And then I'm like, yeah, this isn't on there. She's like, oh, you're supposed to pay taxes and fees. I'm like, well, it's $96. That's not taxes and fees. And she just grabs, give it to me, give it to me. And then I'm like, look, I'm looking at it still. I'm like, oh, and the buffet charges are on there too. It's not supposed to be there. And she's like, all right, just put your card in. I'm like, okay. And I should have pushed back and said, no, I don't want to put my card in. And I was checking out with a different card than I checked in with. Because I figured out that I had a Amex offer on a card for Grand Hyatt. So I was like, cool, I'm gonna use this one instead. So I go to slide it in. I'm thinking like, oh, we should wait till this is settled. So I slide it in, and then she goes, okay, and then takes it all off and prints out a new bill and gives it to me. And it shows $1,000 charge still on my one card for the incident, all the stuff, and then it shows a credit of like $400 for the breakfast stuff. And I'm like, but the credit is on the other card that I checked in with and not the card I was paying with. And I was like, why didn't we just wait until this was done? And I was like, so you credit it back to the other card? She's like, well, that's what you wanted, right? You want to pay with a different card? Just really on edge. And I'm like, no, look at this. You charged me one card and then you credited a different card. It's fine. I just want to make sure that's what happened. And it was like, okay, like, why do you have to be the worst employee on the last one I have interaction with?
That's the Bahamas I know and love, baby. That is my.
But yeah, she just like snatched it instead of being like,
Yeah.
oh, my bad. Like you're it's not supposed to be. So I texted my buddy and said, hey, he was on a guest of honor too. I said, hey, just check your bill, make sure it's all right. And he said, oh yeah, everything was taken off. Like we didn't have a problem at all. So I don't know what happened there. It was weird. Maybe because we had like a 1-night stay and then a 3-night stay that were combined together. Maybe that messed everything up. But we had 2 separate guest of honors. So I don't know.
Word to the wise to these hotels: put your nicest people at the front desk, not the people who have.
If you see somebody in a mood, take
Yeah.
them back, make them fold towels or something.
Yeah, exactly. And all your problems will be solved. I think that's the moral of the story. But it is a great hotel. I do want to go back there now. I don't know that I would do it as a standalone trip, but maybe the timing will be right, or something will bring me back there, because it does look like, and like you say, it delivers with the pools, the water park, the casino, really nice hotels, and then access to the rest
Just
of
bring your own
Nassau,
booze.
which, yeah, there you go. I mean, just like anything, if you can really do the food hacking, and I remember when Kirsten went there and we wrote a whole article about kind of the food hacking at Baha Mar. Not going to be relevant anymore, but that really is your strategy for saving the most money if you can figure out how to navigate the food, because that's going to be your biggest cost if you're going on miles and points.
Yeah, I that airport option is probably the easiest. Like you're already there when you get off the plane. Just stock up on whatever you want, put it in your bag, take it to the hotel. If you do drink, they give you like really cool red water bottles. You could pour it in there, or like I said, I took Kalik cans. Don't take glass, of course, but I took Kalik cans down to the pool, opened them. They looked exactly like what they were selling. It wasn't a problem. I think as long as you're not like outlandish with it, it should be fine. Or you could pour it into your water bottle, go up to the room every few hours to refill it, whatever you be. There's definitely options there, but that's like you're paying $10 a beer, like $16 to $18 a mixed drink or a frozen drink. Oh, I forgot to mention maybe the most important thing for some, since they don't have the lounge, they do give you 2 free drink tickets every day. It says use 1 per day, but there's so many bars. You go to different bars. Even sometimes the same bartender will take it. So there's, up to $25 a drink. So there you go. That can cover your day leave for some people right there.
Yeah, that is a great benefit, and it gives you more flexibility than the lounge used to be. That's for Globalist, right? So
Yes.
just to be clear, not for everybody, but it's great. I'm glad to hear it, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this take and seeing Baha Mar and the Bahamas. And I guess we'll have to leave our Hawaii versus Bahamas debate for another show. which would be a
Everybody
fun.
said Bahamas, Sean. Everybody.
No, I don't think so. I really
don't. No, like
think
everybody
so.
in my family, at least, they said yes. I like this better.
Yeah, because you poo-pooed on Hawaii the whole time you were there. That's what you soured them on it.
All Bahamas needs is a volcano I can drive up and stare at that looks like Mars, and we're set. We got everything.
So let us know in the comments. Have you been to Baha Mar? Anything else about the Bahamas? Is it your favorite place to go? Leave a comment. And Wednesday we'll have back with 20-minute travel, all the news stories and miles and points, everything you need to know going on, including some craziness with Southwest pricing and all those United changes. Still trying to wrap my head around that. So stick around on the channel. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you next time.
I love how you are upset about Bahamas food prices when Hawaii is the exact same.
But they don't make you pay a surcharge every time, and
You still tip.